It was just another Saturday morning in my Seattle apartment. I stood in the kitchen, watching the coffee maker drip dark liquid into my favorite mug, enjoying the quiet rhythm of a weekend with no plans. Life had settled into something comfortable. My job, as a software engineer at a solid tech company, paid the bills, and then some. I was single content, and honestly, I liked it that way. It had been 7 years since Madison and I split, and I had closed that chapter completely. Or, so I thought. Then came the knock at my door. Not the usual delivery guy rhythm, but something hesitant, uncertain. I set down my mug and walked over, opening it without thinking. Madison stood there hand in hand with a young boy who looked about 6 years old. My heart stopped. Her voice cut through the morning air like broken glass. "Kane, we need to talk. This is Kyle, your son. Before I dive into what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching this from. Drop your location in the comments below. And if you have ever dealt with someone from your past showing up out of nowhere with a bombshell that turned your world upside down, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to hear how this whole mess unraveled, because trust me, you will not believe where this goes. Now, let me tell you about the moment my past came knocking. I stood frozen in the doorway, my brain struggling to process what I was seeing. Madison looked different. Older, definitely. Tired in a way that went deeper than just lack of sleep. Her clothes came from thrift stores, I could tell. Faded jeans with frayed hems, a sweater that had seen better winters. The woman I remembered always dressed well took pride in her appearance. This version looked worn down by life. Then, there was the boy. Kyle. He had sandy brown hair that fell across his forehead, curious eyes that darted between me and his mother, and he clutched a stuffed dinosaur that had clearly been loved hard. The green fabric was faded, one eye hung by a thread. The kid looked nervous, shifting his weight from foot to foot. My internal monologue ran at lightning speed. This cannot be real. 7 years. A son. How is this possible? The math alone made my head spin. Madison's voice came out shaky. "Can we come in? It is important." I hesitated. Every instinct screamed to slam the door to pretend this was not happening, but I stepped aside. They entered, awkwardly, Kyle, staying close to his mother's leg like a shadow. I gestured toward the living room couch, my hands trembling as I shoved them into my pockets to hide it. Madison perched on the edge of the cushion. Kyle sat beside her, swinging his legs that did not quite reach the floor. I took the armchair across from them, leaning forward with my elbows on my knees. "I know this is a shock." Madison started, her fingers twisting together in her lap. "That is putting it mildly," I managed to say. She took a breath. "Kyle is 6 years old. He was born 9 months after we broke up." The timeline hit me like cold water. We split in March 7 years ago. If what she was saying was true, that meant she got pregnant right before or right after the breakup. "I found out about the pregnancy after we had already separated," she continued. "I did not want to burden you back then. You were starting your career, moving here to Seattle. It seemed wrong to trap you. Trap me." Interesting choice of words. "I tried to do this alone, Kane. I really did." Tears formed in her eyes, threatening to spill over. "But it is too hard. Kyle deserves to know his father. He asks about you all the time." That hit me in the chest. I looked at the boy again, really looked at him. Did I see myself? It was impossible to tell. Kids all kind of looked the same at that age, did they not? My mind pulled me backward 7 years against my will. Madison and I met at a friend's party during our college years. Late 20s, both of us thinking we had everything figured out. We dated for 2 years. There were good times, real ones. Late-night drives down the coast with terrible music playing. Shared dreams about the future. Laughter that made my ribs hurt. But then something shifted. Madison became distant, secretive. Her phone was suddenly off limits. She started arguments over nothing, picking fights about things that never bothered her before. I caught her in small lies, nothing catastrophic but enough to erode trust. When I confronted her, she turned it around, made me feel like I was being paranoid, controlling. The breakup was messy. Accusations flew both directions. She said I was emotionally unavailable. I said she was checked out of the relationship months before it officially ended. Her final words to me were, "You will regret this, Kane." I moved to Seattle a month later, took the software engineering job I had been offered and started fresh. Madison stayed in Portland. I deleted her number, unfriended her on social media, cut every tie, clean break. Or so I thought. Snapping back to the present, I found Madison staring at me, waiting for a response. Kyle was playing with his dinosaur, making quiet roaring sounds, oblivious to the tension suffocating the room. "Why now, Madison?" I asked. "Why, after 7 years, why did you not reach out when you found out, when he was born, when he turned 1, 2, 3? How do I even know? Are you seriously questioning me?" Her voice rose defensive. "Are you calling me a liar? I am asking logical questions." She wiped at her eyes dramatically. "I was protecting you, Kane. You were building your life. I did not want to ruin that. You could have sent a message. An email. Something. I tried to contact you years ago, but I lost your number." I nearly laughed. Lost my number, in the age of social media, email, mutual friends. That excuse was paper thin and she knew it. "Look at him, Kane." Her voice dropped to a pleading whisper. "Really look at him." Kyle chose that moment to glance up at me. "Mom, is this my dad?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Madison put her arm around him. "Yes, sweetie. This is your daddy." My heart clenched. Guilt, mixed with suspicion, in a nauseating cocktail. The kid was innocent, in whatever game was being played here. "Are you going to live with us now?" Kyle asked, his voice small and hopeful. I could not answer. The silence stretched until Madison filled it. "We need help, Kane." Her tone shifted, became more practical, almost businesslike. "Kyle needs stability. There are medical bills, school expenses, clothes that he grows out of every few months." Here it comes, I thought. "I was hoping you could help with child support. Maybe even consider us moving to Seattle so Kyle can spend time with you." The walls felt like they were closing in. My apartment suddenly seemed too small, the air too thin. "This is a lot, Madison." I stood up, needing space. "I cannot just. He is your son." She stood too, blocking my path. "What is there to think about?" "Everything." "I need to think about everything." We stared at each other, the years between us, filled with all the words we never said. Finally I spoke. "I need time to process this." "Time," her voice went sharp. "How much time does a father need to decide if he cares about his child? A few days." "That is all I am asking." He decided Highlandjang. He decided high. He decided He decided Highlandjang. He decided He decided He decided. She grabbed her purse, pulling out a slip of paper and a pen. She scribbled a number and shoved it at me. "This is my new number. We are staying at a motel in Tacoma for now." Tacoma. An hour south of here. Not far, but not close either. "Do not take too long." She took Kyle's hand, pulling him toward the door. "He has been asking about you for years. Do not make him wait forever." Kyle turned back as they reached the door. He gave a small wave. "Bye, Dad." Those 2 words cracked something in my chest. I watched them leave, heard their footsteps fade down the hallway, and then I was alone. I closed the door and leaned against it, my legs suddenly weak. The weight of the last 30 minutes crashed over me all at once. Shock, confusion, doubt, and underneath it all, a thread of guilt that wrapped around my throat. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands and pulled up my contacts. Marcus answered on the second ring. "Hey man. What is up? Can you come over? Right now?" He heard something in my voice. Already heading to my car. "Be there in 15. I collapsed onto the couch, head in my hands, and let myself ask the question that terrified me most. What if she is telling the truth? What if I really am a father? Marcus showed up with pizza, and the kind of steady presence only a best friend can bring. He was tall, always composed, the kind of guy who thought 3 steps ahead of everyone else. It was why he made such a good lawyer. He set the pizza on my coffee table and dropped into the armchair. "Talk to me." I told him everything. Every word Madison said, Every moment of that surreal conversation, the way Kyle looked at me with those hopeful eyes. Marcus listened without interrupting, occasionally taking notes on his phone like he was already building a case. When I finished, he leaned back and steepled his fingers. First rule: do not admit anything. What? Do not say you are the father. Do not act like you are the father, not until you have proof. But what if I am? Will I not look like a jerk who does not care? You will look like someone who wants the truth. That is smart, not heartless. He leaned forward. Second rule: DNA test, non-negotiable. The words landed like stones. You think she is lying. I think paternity fraud happens more than people realize. Women who are desperate, or vindictive, or both, will target men they think have money or a sense of responsibility. He pulled up something on his phone, showed me statistics I did not want to see. If she is legitimate, the test proves it, and you move forward. If she is not, you are protected. She is going to think I do not trust her. You should not trust her. You broke up 7 years ago on bad terms. She shows up out of nowhere with a kid and a handout. Come on, Kane. You are smarter than this. He was right. I knew he was right. But guilt was a powerful thing. I can be there with you when you talk to her next. Marcus offered. As moral support, not as your lawyer. She does not need to know I am a lawyer unless it becomes necessary. I nodded, feeling marginally better, having a plan. Okay, yeah, let me set something up. 3 days later, we met at a Starbucks in downtown Seattle. I got there early, with Marcus, securing a corner table with a view of the entrance. My leg bounced under the table, nervous energy I could not contain. Madison arrived exactly on time, Kyle trailing behind her. The moment she saw Marcus, her expression soured. I thought this was just us, she said, not bothering to sit. Marcus is my friend. He is here for support. Her eyes narrowed, but she sat across from us, pulling Kyle into the seat beside her. The boy looked around at all the people, the noise, the hiss of the espresso machine. Since you clearly do not believe me, Madison said, her tone acidic, I brought proof. She pulled a manila folder from her oversized purse and slid it across the table. I opened it. Inside was a birth certificate, Kyle's full name, date of birth, hospital. My eyes went straight to the line marked father. It was blank. Why is the father line blank? I asked. Madison bristled. I told you. I was protecting you. I did not know if you would want to be involved, so I left it empty rather than put your name without permission. It sounded rehearsed. Marcus caught my eye, gave the smallest shake of his head. I also have photos. Madison pulled out her phone, swiping through images. I documented everything in case you ever came back. She turned the screen toward me. Photos of Kyle as a baby, red-faced and tiny, as a toddler grinning with 2 front teeth missing. Birthday parties with cheap decorations. First day of school pictures. See, she said. I kept records of everything. I studied the photos. Kyle looked like a regular kid. I could not definitively see myself in him, but I could not see it either. It was frustratingly ambiguous. Madison pulled the phone back and set down a piece of paper. I need help, Kane. Real help. I looked at the paper. It was a handwritten list of expenses. Retroactive child support calculations going back 7 years. Current monthly needs. School costs, medical bills, groceries, rent. The numbers made my coffee taste like acid. Over $50,000 in back support. $2,000 per month going forward. I nearly choked. Madison, this is insane. Insane. Her voice rose several decibels. You think asking for what you owe WE is insane. Other customers were starting to glance over. The barista looked concerned. Wak, everwa. You cannot just show up after 7 years and demand. She was almost shouting now. I am asking for what you owe him, what you owe me. I have sacrificed everything, Kane. Everything, given up my entire life to raise your son alone. Kyle shrank into his seat, eyes wide. Mom, you are loud, he whispered. Madison softened for a second. Sorry, baby. Then her fury snapped back to me. See what I deal with alone every single day. The guilt trip was heavy-handed and obvious, but it still worked on some level. Kyle looked genuinely scared. He asks about his dad every single day. Madison continued, her voice breaking with theatrical emotion. Do you know what it is like telling a 6-year-old that his father does not want him? That his father chose his career over his own child? Marcus finally spoke, his voice calm and level. Ma'am, those are serious accusations. But we need verification. Stay out of this, Madison snapped at him. Madison, I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm even though my heart was hammering. I hear you. I understand this is hard, but I need to be sure. I want a DNA test. The coffee shop seemed to go silent. Madison stared at me like I had slapped her. Are you kidding me right now? It is a reasonable request. She stood up so fast her chair screeched. You do not trust me. After I come here vulnerable, with your son asking for the bare minimum, and you insult me like this. How dare you? People were definitely staring now. The barista had her hand near the phone, probably ready to call security. Kyle started crying, quiet tears running down his cheeks. Mommy, stop, he whimpered. Marcus remained seated, perfectly calm. Ma'am, it is a reasonable request. If the child is his, the test proves it. Then everyone can move forward. I said stay out of this. Madison's face was red, a vein visible on her forehead. I stayed in my chair, forcing my exterior to remain composed, even though my insides were in knots. Madison, if Kyle is my son, the test proves it. Then we can talk about everything else. But if you are telling the truth, you have nothing to worry about. Tests are expensive, she said, grasping for reasons. I cannot afford. We will cover it, Marcus said smoothly. Fully, all costs. The standoff stretched. Madison stood there, chest heaving, trapped. Finally, she sat back down heavily and wiped her eyes in an exaggerated motion. Fine. Fine. If that is what it takes for you to believe me, then fine. But when it proves I am right, her voice dropped to something cold and threatening, you better step up. You will owe me an apology. And a whole lot more. Marcus had already researched testing facilities. He slid a printed paper across the table with an appointment time and location. Madison snatched it like it burned her fingers. This is humiliating. It is necessary, I said quietly. She stood again, grabbing Kyle's hand roughly. Come on, baby. We are leaving. Kyle looked back at me one more time before she dragged him out. The door chimed as they left, and then the coffee shop slowly returned to normal volume. Marcus and I sat in silence for a long moment. You did the right thing, he said finally. But I felt hollowed out, like someone had scooped out my insides and left just the shell. The next week was torture. The DNA test itself was simple. A clinic in Bellevue, sterile and impersonal. A technician swabbed the inside of my cheek, then Kyle's. The whole thing took 10 minutes. Madison was cold the entire time, barely speaking. When Kyle asked, "Does this hurt?" as the technician approached him with the swab, I found myself answering gently, "Not at all, buddy." He smiled at me just a little, and for a moment, I felt a connection. Then, it was over, and Madison whisked him away without a word. The lab said results would take 7 to 10 business days. 7 to 10 days of my life, in suspended animation. Madison started texting me constantly. At first, it was guilt trips. Kyle is crying, asking why Daddy does not believe Mommy. Then it escalated. We are going to be evicted if you do not help now. The messages got more aggressive, more desperate. Then, I started noticing vague posts on social media. Madison did not name me directly, but she tagged mutual friends in posts about men who abandon their children and fighting for my son against a coward. Friends started texting me. "Dude, what is going on? Is Madison talking about you?" I gave vague answers, not wanting to get into it before I had proof. Work suffered. My boss, a decent guy named Greg, pulled me aside after I stared at the same block of code for 2 hours without typing anything. "Everything okay, Kane? Personal matter. I will handle it." He nodded, did not push, but I could see the concern. Every day I checked my email obsessively. Every notification made my heart jump.